Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 17 video. Just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Things totally went off the rails and it's so much more fun now. As predicted, Hive has turned one of the Secret Warriors. I feel like up to a couple episodes ago, they were teasing us with Lincoln turning just because he had that dark side. Classic bait and switch. Daisy is the one that gets turned, and Crazy Daisy is my favorite Daisy. Chloe Bennet, the actress, has been doing a lot better job. I think she'll have a lot more fun with the character now that she gets to go off the rails. Going off the rails is one of the most fun things to do for a character that's normally supposed to have their shit together. Like Grant Ward in Season 1 was this total vanilla character, the most boring thing ever. Then big twist in the back half of the season, turns out he's Hydra and he goes completely off the rails. So much more interesting. So let's just do top 5 WTF. There were a couple comic book Easter eggs, but largely all the comic book stuff is being pulled from Secret Warriors, from that storyline in the comics. There is some Civil War stuff that's going to be happening in a couple weeks, but I don't know exactly how that's going to go down. We can talk about that at the end of the video. So number 5, Avengers Assemble. Daisy gets the band back together. Really digging the energy between Joey and Yo-Yo. They're both new to the team, but they're really excited to be there, do something good with their powers. And it was a really nice touch, from a creative standpoint, just to have them speak Spanish to each other, just like it was no big deal. Like they have a special bond within the bond that they're both part of the Secret Warriors. We're both Inhumans, we're both part of this special team, but we also have this real-world cultural link that bonds us that's totally normal. Even though they're totally badass superheroes with crazy powers, them speaking Spanish to each other just makes them feel more like real characters. And then later, it's so much sweeter when Mac does it, like, oh, you've been studying up. Like there's some sort of ship that's developing between them. You can definitely tell he went above and beyond the Call of Duty. It is not a S.H.I.E.L.D. requirement that you learn Spanish. So yeah, there's definitely some chemistry between them, which they kind of use to pull the rug out from under you at the end, where everybody stopped trusting each other. So number 4, WTF, they find out that Hive has infected one of the team members, and they do the classic whodunit, like there's a wolf in the henhouse. Which one of us is the traitor? It's like a game of Clue. Daisy in the interrogation room with the bomb. Best part of this is the Coulson first perspective shots as he was walking out, just looking at all the Inhumans like, is it this person? Is it one of these two? This is like the best version of Coulson. It always feels really unnatural when he starts trusting people, but he's like the Nick Fury on the team, and Nick Fury doesn't trust anyone. If you haven't read the comics, you should check out Original Sin. You will learn so many amazing things about Nick Fury and why it's so important for him to not trust anyone. So that's kind of like the Coulson character. So paranoid Coulson always feels like the best version of Coulson. Number 3, WTF, Malik's confession. Oh, he's a god. He's just not our god. I love the way the show is talking around the Hive character. Like you see Brett Dalton's performance when he's playing the character is very understated, as opposed to say Zoom on the Flash, who's a bit more of a showy villain. So most of the Hive action is actually coming from the characters around him. So listening to Malik talk about trying to bring a god back and finding out that it was really the devil masquerading as a god. The devil makes all kinds of promises. Coulson throws in a nice Loki jab, I've met gods before, which makes you feel like there's going to be a destroyer gun moment. We developed this after our first encounter with you. It's so new, even I don't know what it does. Let's turn it on. Don't you want to find out what it does? Usually anytime Coulson talks about shading a god or shading some powerful being, it's calling back to that Loki encounter where a god is able to run rampant all over man, but that doesn't mean that Coulson won't be the one to get the last word in. So everybody just hold your breath and wait for a destroyer gun moment. Number 2, WTF, thankfully, paying off the Fitz and Simmons romance. Usually it's really hard for a series to get the level of romance and shipping right. Usually they go too far or they don't do it quite enough. I feel like S.H.I.E.L.D. has done a pretty good job with it this season. Yes, it's happening. Yes, we're finally getting them together. But just as this is happening, things go off the rails with Daisy. So my number 1, WTF, Daisy starts to destroy the base. That was one of my most fun moments. Just that crazy smile on her face. It was so perfect. This is my new favorite Daisy moment. Yeah, it was totally cool seeing her go through Terrigenesis, watch her powers be activated, but now watching her go off the rails is the most beautiful thing ever. So let me know in the comments, what was your favorite moment from this? Was it like the twist at the end where Daisy's like, I'm the best I've ever been. I'm so happy now. I'm just gonna go ahead and destroy this entire base. Just a reminder, this was episode 17. There are 22 episodes this season total, so there's still 5 more episodes to go. So we still gotta find out how Yo-Yo's bloody cross ends up in outer space. She might be the one that dies. We don't know that yet. We just know it's going to be somebody wearing a S.H.I.E.L.D. uniform, meaning that it's probably one of the Secret Warriors. So what we're seeing here is a vision that Daisy had of someone dying in the future. It could be her death, it could be someone close to her, but she's close to all the Secret Warriors. I feel like of all the people she cares about most, Lincoln is probably at the top of that list. So I'm going to say Yo-Yo and Lincoln are on the hit list for the end of the season. But let me know in the comments, who do you think is the dead Secret Warrior that's in this scene right here? But let's talk about some Captain America Civil War crossover. So Civil War is coming out that first week in May. There are 2 episodes that could potentially be that crossover episode. There's episode 19 that's called Failed Experiments, and then the week after that is called Emancipation. So I feel like those 2 episodes are going to have some sort of Civil War crossover, but they did say that it's going to be a one-way thing. So they'll address Civil War on the TV show, but the movie is not going to address what's going on in the TV show. So instead of using the term Inhumans, the movie is going to use the term Enhanced People, like Scarlet Witch is an enhanced person. But the term failed experiments really just sounds like Kree failed experiments, as in the Inhumans were considered a failed experiment by the Kree, so the Kree bailed and left them to their own devices. So I think they've actually teased that the Kree will be coming back to the show this season in some form or another. They have that special orb, so it's probably going to have something to do with defeating Hive. So I'm expecting the Kree to give them some knowledge as to how that orb works and how to banish Hive. They'll probably be like, yeah, there's no way to kill him, you can only contain him. There was also some anti-Hive research. When Hive was first taking over Hydra, he went around and hit a bunch of military bases. Simmons was talking about birds, like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, like, oh, wouldn't you be terrified if a bunch of birds came pecking at you? The research that Hive destroyed was working towards an immunity to his parasitic effect. So it'd be like inoculating people against his form of mind control. So that will also probably have something to do with the Emancipation episode. But the other really big news is that Gotham just introduced the Azrael character. If you never read him in the comics, he kind of took over as Batman. He's part of this special order of crazy lunatics. He's a total badass. The TV show version of the character is actually someone who's dead, who came back. So it's all part of this big Hugo Strange plot. So if you haven't been watching Gotham, now's a good time to get back on. But I will be doing a Gotham video on my YouTube channel for Azrael. They dropped this really big cinematic trailer. It's really cool. So be sure to subscribe to get that. There's also a big Doctor Strange video I'm working on, and a lot of you had questions about The Flash, so I'll try to address that in another video this week. While you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for last night's episode of The Flash, and you can click here to learn all about Marvel Phase 4. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.